All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the May 19th, 2026 meeting of the Committee on Judiciary, Law Enforcement, and General Services. This is the first meeting of the new term, so welcome back, everybody. We have the rare honor of having all the same members back in the committee with the addition of Supervisor Logsdon from the 9th as our new vice chair. So look forward to a productive session and a eventful agenda today. We're here in room 203R of the courthouse. As always, you can participate in this meeting virtually if you're a member of the public. We do our best to accommodate public comment on all the items that we notice. Look forward to a good discussion today. Coordinator, could you please read the first item?
Mr. Chairman, I'll need to take the roll quick.
Yes, you have to do that. That is the first item. You're so smart. Thank you.
Supervisors Logsdon,
Present.
Johnson Jr.,
Here.
Martinez,
Present.
Capriolo.
Here.
Mr. Chairman,
Present.
there are 5 members present, 2 appearing virtually. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you for that. Now, if you would, please, Mr. Coordinator, read the first item.
Item 1, from the County Executive, appointing George Bledsoe to the Milwaukee County Ethics Board for a term expiring April 30th, 2032.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Chairman, committee members. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I am here to respectfully request confirmation of the appointment of Mr. George Bledsoe. My name is Kyle Ashley. I am Director of Community Outreach for County Executive David Crawley. Mr. Bledsoe brings more than 2 decades of professional experience in risk management, trust administration, financial services, regulatory compliance, and client dispute resolution. He currently serves as a senior annuities analyst with Northwestern Mutual Investment Services, where he manages complex annuity trading and maintenance activities, resolves disputes, and supports compliance and operational integrity for clients and financial representatives. Throughout his career, Mr. Bledsoe has demonstrated strong analytical skills, sound judgment, and a commitment to ethical and transparent practices. His experience includes trust accounting and administration roles with Northwestern Mutual Wealth Management Company, BMO Harris Global Asset Management, Godfrey & Kahn, and U.S. Bancorp Mutual Fund Services. He has consistently been recognized for leadership, process improvement, regulatory compliance, and operational accountability. Mr. Bledsoe also possesses substantial civic and community leadership experience. He currently serves as Chief Elections Official for the Milwaukee Elections Commission and is the first Vice President and Political Action Committee Chair for the NAACP Milwaukee branch. In addition, he serves as Chairman of the Board for Community Huddle and his prior leadership positions with First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. His involvement with organizations focused on civic engagement, social justice, and community empowerment reflects his dedication to public service and ethical governance. Mr. Bledsoe's professional expertise, integrity, and demonstrated commitment to the Milwaukee community make him exceptionally qualified to serve on the Milwaukee County Ethics Board. On behalf of the County Executive, I respectfully request the committee's favorable consideration and recommendation of his appointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ashley. And do we have Mr. Bledsoe with us on Zoom today or on Teams today?
Should be on Teams.
Mr. Bledsoe, if you wouldn't mind just sharing any words you'd like to share before we open up to committee questions. Okay. Well, we'll give him a minute, but in the meantime, Supervisor Johnson, you had a question?
Chairman Malinsky, I had no question. I was going to move to confirm the appointment.
Do we anticipate that we might be able to get Mr. Bledsoe on later in the meeting, or?
I'm reaching out to him via text message. He was supposed to be on at the top. I know he's balancing work and trying to be here too.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
just gonna call him right now. My apologies.
As a two-job haver, I appreciate that. Thank you. Go ahead whenever you're ready, Mr. Bledsoe.
Hi, good morning. I do apologize. I just kind of got into the chat. I don't know if there was a question out there for me.
I was just wondering if you'd like to share any words before we open up to committee questions.
Oh, sure. I'd like to say thank you all for this opportunity. There isn't in my lifetime ethics and governance and that alike is very important right now. I do consider myself to be an ethical person. That's how I was raised. And I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this, to be a part of our governance and the ethics process. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other committee members? Okay. My only question was this. We often think of ethics as, people not doing bad things or being held accountable for the things they do that are wrong. But in your mind, what's an example of ethics in the affirmative, proactive actions that people can take to demonstrate good ethics in government?
Transparency. I think that transparency is the biggest thing that someone can do as far as relaying their ethics in the work that they're doing. So I think transparency goes an absolute long way.
You're speaking my language. I appreciate that. With no further questions, we do have a motion on the floor to approve your nomination. Thank you for considering this post. Mr. Coordinator, could you call the roll on the motion, Supervisor Johnson's motion?
On the motion by Supervisor Johnson Jr. that item number 1 be recommended for confirmation, Supervisor Logson,
Aye.
Johnson Jr.,
Aye.
Martinez,
Aye.
Capriolo,
Aye.
Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 noes, the motion prevails.
All right, thank you. And then, in the interest of efficiency, we do have another item involving the Ethics Board today, so I was going to make the move item, what is this? Item 8 up to be heard at this time.
Item 8, from the Executive Director, Milwaukee County Ethics Board, providing the department's 2025 annual report and a supplemental informational report to be placed on file. This item is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Belinsky, committee members. My name is Adam Gilmore. I'm the Administrator of the county's Personnel Review Board and Executive Director of the county's Ethics Board, and I'm here to discuss the Ethics Board's 2025 annual report. In submitting the annual report, the board and its office satisfies its obligation under Section 9.08, Parent 9 of the Ethics Code, that is, Chapter 9 of our county ordinances. The report presents the actions, operations, and activities of the Ethics Board and its office over the past year. It is required to include summaries of each determination made in a given year that still maintain the guaranteed confidentiality of those inquirers. Over the last few years, the Ethics Board has also provided a supplemental report that gives a broad overview of what the report contains, while stressing what I consider to be the most important element of the report for you, the committee members, and anyone else that reviews the annual report. The summarized examples of inquiries and resolutions that are provided with the report are just that, summaries and examples. Individuals should not rely on these as guidance for themselves or attempt to apply them to their own scenarios. What individuals should do is recognize the variety of the circumstances that can occur and cause someone to reach out to me and my office for guidance. As an example, in the past, I've been asked by this committee if there was a single advisory opinion that I felt was the most important for people to review and consider. I do not believe that any one summary should be prioritized over another. While some of the opinions might be more elaborate or unique than others, it is the entirety of the summaries that achieves our goal. These are all reasons individuals felt compelled to reach out to the Ethics Board for some degree of input on a scenario they were facing. So again, to this committee, to anyone that reviews the report, to anyone listening right now, if you ever feel yourself in a situation that you want confidential advisement on how to navigate a potential ethics code issue, it is in your best interest to follow the examples set in this report by dozens of our peers who sought my office's guidance. Separate from the summarized examples, the Ethics Board issued 2 formal opinions this year, one on ethical use of public funds and another on secondary employment opportunities. Unlike advisory opinions which are requested individually and issued confidentially. The Ethics Board will utilize a formal opinion to interpret the application of the code to a universal concern or any issue not otherwise raised by someone else. These opinions are meant to serve as additional educational tools for code compliance for employees. These and past formal opinions, past annual reports, and even newsletters on various ethics code topics are all available on the Ethics Board's website. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions committee members might have about the 2025 Ethics Board Annual Report.
Any supervisors with any questions? Supervisor Longson.
Thank you, Chairman. I was hoping you made highlight some of the, there's like, 50, 60 items from last year. Highlight some of the items that were unusual and why you came to those conclusions.
As I just mentioned in my statement, I do not like to single anyone out because that is not the intent here. But to go over a particular inquiry, any particularly unique ones. Honestly, the best ones to highlight would probably be the formal opinions. These are ones that the board saw as fit to express universally some guidance on. So first, with the use of public funds, the key here is having a system in place where there is consideration about how the funds being used can appear to be used. The bar for our consideration is very low. It's not whether or not someone violates the ethics code. It's if it looks like you might violate the ethics code, I'm going to steer you away from that kind of behavior. So you'll see with the opinion on the use of public funds that there's a lot of guidance, particularly for those with control over finances in their role at the county, on best practices on using those funds and opportunities that they might have to reach out to me to ask questions about whether or not a use of funds is appropriate, whether it's buying supplies for an event, whether it's for buying tickets for employees as a reward, saying thank you for some extra work that was performed. The other one is on secondary employment opportunities. This is a topic that I see come in a lot at the office. We obviously, first and foremost, don't want to bar anyone from any secondary employment. You are free to seek whatever jobs you can. What we were trying to eliminate is the potential that it looks like you are receiving a job because of your role at the county, because of access you might have to information or other resources. So with that, when people get an opportunity to take on secondary employment outside of their work that maybe overlaps with typical work hours, or they might have to use vacation time to navigate around a short-term secondary employment opportunity. When they reach out to us and we're able to navigate that with them and work with their supervisor as well, it keeps everybody on the same page early on. And this speaks to what you were asking about proactivity earlier. It is in everyone's best interest to be proactive and to try and resolve those. But even if you can't be, if something's already happened, it is still in your best interest to reach out to me and help me help you resolve it, rather than see you at the other end of an investigation.
Thank you for that. It's always interesting to hear the new things that come out every year, and thank you for what you do.
Appreciate it.
Supervisor Capriolo on Teams.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say thank you very much for the service that you offer. I used it several times last year, and as I went through the review, I was like, oh, that one was me. So I appreciate having the ability to have someone to go to just to make sure that I'm being transparent and that I'm doing the right thing by the county, by my position. So thank you so much.
I'm glad to hear that. And if I'm doing my job well, hopefully you're the only one that sees that and says, oh, that's me.
Thank you. Quick question. You mentioned there's no, sort of prohibition on secondary employment for county employees. Is there an explicit prohibition on using sort of your county office for referrals or getting contracts for a secondary business?
No, there's no general guidance on that. What I would say is if a specific scenario comes up where we consider who's involved, what the contract history is between the county and that organization, perhaps. All of these factors that have to come into play before I can offer guidance. So to that end, I can't say that there's
Sure.
any general rule. I just keep insisting, if you have something, bring it to
Right.
me, and we can give you tailored guidance to that situation.
Okay. All right, I think that is about it. This is a informational item. I appreciate the presentation, and thank you for your work.
Thank you all.
All right, just a little bit of housekeeping. Item 5 on the agenda, the Director of Office of Emergency Management had requested that we lay this over for one meeting so that there could be additional staff available to testify on the item. I think it was a sort of a late referral, and they had intended it to be heard in June. So going to be holding item 5 for laying it over for one meeting.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to read it into the record so the committee could dispense with that action?
That would be great.
Item 5, from the Director, Office of Emergency Management, providing an executive summary of the results of the consultation services provided by Mission Critical Partners regarding the evaluation of the computer-aided dispatch systems in Milwaukee County. This item is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
All right, thank you. So if you would, please, Mr. Coordinator, read in item 3.
Mr. Chairman, the committee would need to take an action.
Do we have a motion on that action, or do we need a motion?
A committee member would need to make a motion if that is the will of the committee.
Okay. Supervisor Johnson.
Chairman Bielanski, I move to lay over item number 5 for to the next meeting.
Thank you, Supervisor Johnson. And then do we need to call a roll then? All right, you can go ahead.
On the motion by Supervisor Johnson Jr. that item number 5 be laid over for one meeting, Supervisors Logston,
Aye.
Johnson Jr.,
Aye.
Martinez,
Aye.
Capriolo,
Aye.
Bielanski. Mr. Chairman,
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 noes, the motion prevails.
All right, I thank everyone for their patience as I shake off the rust here. Now, would you please read in item number 3?
2.
Do we do 2? We did not do 2. 2. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Item 2, a resolution/ordinance to amend Section 1.21 of the Milwaukee County Code of General Ordinances to require standing committee review of reappointments. This resolution is sponsored by Supervisors Rowland and Wasserman.
Okay, I guess first I would see, do we have either supervisor or either sponsor on teams currently to speak to their ordinance? Okay, I'm going to send a message to the authors just in case they had meant to be here. If I want to just lay it over till later in the meeting, do I need to make a formal motion or can I just do that?
That can be done by unanimous consent, Mr.
By unanimous consent, I would seek to lay this over till later in the meeting. Yes, please read in item 3, Mr. Coordinator.
Item 3, from the Chief Deputy, Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, requesting approval to create Section 56.34 within Chapter 56 of the Milwaukee County Code of General Ordinances relating to internet mortgage foreclosure sale auctions and authorizing those auctions by a registered auctioneer.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Supervisors. Brian Barco, Chief Deputy, Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office. Before you is a resolution to adopt a new county ordinance that would allow the Sheriff's Office and other county departments involved in the sheriff sales process to conduct online foreclosure or online sheriff sales. Some of the benefits of this process of switching it to online would be it increases participation and access. It also creates operational efficiencies, improves transparency, and reduce risk, especially in the area of collusion and intimidation, which have been issues from conducting these sales in person. And then also it enhances community and economic outcomes. I do have members of Milwaukee County IMSD, and I do believe that the vendor is online as well. Like I said, I'd appreciate the support and adoption of the ordinance, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess real quickly, you mentioned the issue of collusion and intimidation. Can you explain?
So, in the past, there have been incidents where some bidders who are not acting in good faith, they would either conspire along with one another to either drive up price or do other things that, quite frankly, are dishonest and unethical in that process. So, switching to an online version of that, it definitely eliminates the intimidation, because you have to register as a bidder, and someone who's online bidding doesn't know who the other individuals are that are online bidding. So it helps to strengthen that or reduce that, which makes it more fair and consistent for everyone that is looking to bid on these properties.
So this would be like a situation where maybe you have problem landlords who have code violations, and they sort of rig the game so that they can sort of maybe swap some of each other's foreclosed properties that have tax liens or something like that?
Absolutely, exactly.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Anyone in the room have a question? Yep. Supervisor Logson, and then we'll go to Supervisor Capriolo.
Thank you, Chairman. We brought this up years ago about the online bidding. We never put it into action previously.
Mr. Chair, Supervisors, great question. Yes, the state changed the statute allowing for online auctions. I believe it was the end of 2017. We did take up this project in 2018. Unfortunately, competing priorities and trying to get all of the county departments, and there's a number of them that are involved in the sheriff sales process, it was a long process to get those individuals together and for us to figure out and sort out how we move this to an online version. And then unfortunately, COVID-19 hit, which further revised the priorities specifically of IMSD, where they were in the process of creating virtual courtrooms and all of that. So now that we've come out on the back end, we started, we lit the fire under this project, and like I said, we're almost at the finish line. The next step obviously would be the adoption of this county ordinance. There is some other housekeeping, like we have the AMOP that needs to go to the AMOP committee for review, but the adoption of this county ordinance would move us across the finish line.
Thank you. Well, I'll make a motion for adoption. Is that?
Yeah, that seems appropriate. Supervisor Capriolo, you had a question?
I think Sky has it.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So in Seed Committee, we get a list of properties that are in arrears for taxes. How is this different from that? Like, how does property fall into the sheriff's hands versus the county's hands? And then if there are back taxes on any of these properties, does that come back to the county after the sale?
Mr. Chair, Supervisors, another great question. So how it becomes part of sheriff sales is that it goes through the court process where the court orders the foreclosure, and then that property gets added to the list. There's no, and if I'm understanding the question correctly, there is no like fiscal impact on the county. This is all handled through the banks and the bidders, the plaintiff's bank. Oh, well.
We have a Director of Department of Administrative Services, Aaron Hertzberg.
Yeah, thank you. Aaron Hertzberg, Director of Administrative Services. Just jumping in quick to really clarify the distinction. What the Sheriff's Office here is talking about is a mortgage foreclosure, right? So somebody's not keeping up with their mortgage. They have a mortgage on the property. They're not paying it off. It then goes to the sheriff's auction process. What happens at the seed committee in those properties that are discussed are tax foreclosures. So generally speaking, that property is entirely paid off. There's a delinquency in tax payment, and then we're reconciling to, the treasurer's office is making a determination to do a tax foreclosure to say, hey, you haven't kept up on your taxes. We've noticed you've not paid that off. We're going to take the property as collateral against the taxes. Then Milwaukee County walks through our disposition process and the tax process. So the distinction is where the creditor is, right? So what's the decision behind it? Is it the bank foreclosure process, the mortgage foreclosure, or is it the tax foreclosure process? Just want to provide that clarification.
Yes, that helps me a lot. Now, I'm guessing, though, that if someone's not paying their mortgage, they're also not paying their taxes. So do we get any back taxes on these properties as well if it's determined that we're owed any taxes?
I don't know that I can answer that with precision. I believe that'd be a question for the treasurer's office to clarify. I would certainly hope that as part of the facilitation of that sheriff's sale that we're getting our taxes paid due. If not, here we go.
All right. Looks like we have
I'm making
Corporation
everyone
Counsel in
come
the
up to
house.
the table today.
Good morning, Melinda Lawrence, Deputy Corporation Counsel. So the county's taxes are always a superior lien. If they are foreclosed by a mortgage lender, the county's taxes would survive, and any sale of that property would then have to pay off the tax as a superior lien.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That answers my question.
All right. Love the teamwork here. You had mentioned that we have the vendor on Teams. Do they have any words they'd like to say?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jesse Loomis, President and General Manager of Bid for Assets. I'll just briefly mention that where we've rolled this out in other states like Pennsylvania, Louisiana, Florida, there have been a lot of the benefits that were previously discussed. Bidding increases, and the goal of these auctions are to try and make the lender whole and to try and maximize the excess proceeds for the person who's losing their home. These online sales have shown very effective to do that while streamlining work for the staff, and then some of the other benefits that were discussed, like reducing collusion, conflict at the auction. Obviously, they're greener. Not everyone needs to go travel to the auction every week, and people who have day jobs and can't, go down to the courthouse every week are now able to jump on their phone for 30 seconds at their job and place their bids. So it promotes local participation as well.
Thank you for that. And then Chief Deputy Barco, does this mean that we have less of a space need then if we don't have to have a physical location to hold these auctions?
Mr. Chair, supervisors, yes. And additionally, it eliminates the need for a deputy sheriff to be present during the in-person sales. This would all be done virtually. So there is a staff savings, honestly, more so an overtime savings. Typically, that individual is pulled from our courts division to manage or be present during the sheriff sales.
Okay.
In-person sales.
So that's something I guess that maybe could have been included in the fiscal note, because that sort of makes this even better. Okay. Well, we do have a motion to adopt from Supervisor Logsdon. I think we can proceed with that motion.
On the motion by Supervisor Logsdon that item number 3 be recommended for adoption, Supervisors Logsdon,
Aye.
Johnson Jr.,
Aye.
Martinez,
Aye.
Capriolo,
Aye.
Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 noes, the motion prevails.
Thank you. Okay, we have, could you please read in item number 4?
Item 4, from the Chief Deputy, Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, requesting approval of Amendment Number 4 to the Inmate Calling Solutions LLC, IC Solutions Agreement for Correctional Communication Services to act in accordance with the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, Order FCC 2575A1, 2025 IPCS, Incarcerated People's Communication Services, implementation of the Martha Wright Reed Act, adopted October 28, 2025. This file was referred to your committee today for informational purposes only, per Section 59.52, Sub 31, Sub D, Wisconsin State Statutes, and is referred for the Committee on Finance, which meets on Thursday, for action.
All right, welcome.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Morning, County Board Supervisors, Director Joshua Briggs, Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, GO Commander. We're here providing information to request approval to enter into agreement with Inmate Calling or IC Solutions for Amendment Number 4. Amendment 4 grants both the Milwaukee County Jail and the Community Reintegration Center to ensure compliance with the County Exec and the County Board of Supervisors' adopted budget of revenue generating in 2026. The amendment, if approved, would produce approximately $675,000 for the jail and the CRC in revenue. The current amendment does seek to increase the current occupant/resident voice calling amounts inside both facilities from 6 cents per minute to 10 cents per minute, generating a 2 cent per minute revenue for the jail and the CRC and a 2 cent per minute revenue for the IC Solutions. The video visiting piece would additionally increase 11 cents per minute to 18 cents per minute, generating 6% per minute revenue for IC Solutions and 2 cents per minute for the jail and the CRC. Additionally, both facilities receive 4% commission on tablet usage. That total is projected to be around $675,000 in revenue for both facilities. I do want to make a point of clarification. Both facilities would still receive the 90 minutes a week in free voice calling and the 15 minutes a week in video visiting. And we're here to answer any questions that the committee might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from members of the committee? Okay, I guess it's just me. In the report, it mentions that the amount of revenue that the county would receive from this new contract amendment would not sort of equal the amount that was budgeted for the increase in tablet and phone revenue for the two facilities. And I guess I'm just wondering how that could be, since, have we seen a lot lower usage to this point of the year? Or it seems like if the rate's going up and the usage stays the same, that we should be exceeding our budget target.
Those numbers, good morning.
I think it's Mike's off.
Sorry. There we go. Good morning. No, the numbers that we use is the revenue we presenting is just a projection. We're using the data for 2025. We don't have the right numbers since we're not working on this right now. So this is just a projection using the data for 2025.
So from January 1st till whatever, May 19th, are you saying that the usage has been lower than you anticipated?
No, we're the same. What I'm trying to say, there's a projection, the number I'm presenting, the revenue that we are expecting is from 2025. It's just a projection.
Right. So in the report, it says that the CRC had anticipated an increase of revenue for the calling program by $600,000, but in the budget, that $600,000 includes the commissary revenue increase as well. So how much of that $600,000 for CRC is the commissary, and how much was projected to be for the calling program?
Okay, the commissary, I would say there's something different. It's not related with the calls.
Right, but in the budget, they were listed together under the revenue line. If you look at the adopted budget, it says that $600,000 was for the increase in commissary and phone calls and tablets together. So I'm just trying to get a sense of how much of that was the projection for the increased revenue from the tablets and the phone calls.
For the tablets, we have, can you see them?
This is page 5 of the adopted budget for the CRC.
Yes, for what I'm seeing, yes, the phone calls right now and the IC solution is like more low than what we had last year.
Okay. And in the budget, do we know the percentage of that 600,000 that was commissary and which percent was supposed to be for tablet revenue projected?
I don't have that information right now. I can
Okay.
tell that to you later.
Okay. And so it seems like this change, this increase in the rates, was sort of precipitated by a change in federal FCC rules that sort of undid some of the Biden era changes that capped the rates at a certain amount. Is there anything like sort of statutorily that requires us to adopt the new increased rates? And if not, I guess, what is our decision? Why is our decision purely financial for taking the higher rate?
Chair, Board, David Rugaber, Deputy Director, Milwaukee County Jail, Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office. I don't know that. I don't know if Corp Counsel maybe could answer that question. I will tell you, in response to the fiscal note, is currently right now we're not receiving any income from the tablets or from the phones as far as the county is concerned. And that may play into the projections as well, right? So if you look at the projections that the county exec put into the budget for the CRC and for the jail, that's very likely for the entire year. So right now those rates are not effective, so we're not generating any revenue. But if you backdate that to January 1st, maybe those numbers would be more in alignment. But as far as statutorily, if we have to adopt these rates, I would have to defer to Corp Counsel, and maybe they have the answer to that.
So we were anticipating in the budget that we were going to adopt these rates by the beginning of the year, and we just never did? Is that?
Right. So I can't answer the question as far as the delay. I do know that those rates were effective October of 25. I'm sorry, the resolution passed in October of 25 at the federal level, went into effect. We found out about that in November.
Yeah.
We started negotiating then with the vendor as well. So those negotiations, they take time. They involve multiple departments within the county. And here we are before the board. As far as the delay between November and the current time frame, I can't answer for that.
Sure. Yeah, and I guess it sort of give me some background. So, philosophically, if it was up to me, we wouldn't be charging for these calls at all because, I attended an event last week with a bunch of Milwaukee County judges where there's a report presented about the costs on families of incarceration. And it found that the cost of keeping in contact with loved ones while they're incarcerated for families averages about $4,200 a year per incarcerated family member. And because, black families are more likely to have a family member incarcerated and also more likely to visit and to stay in contact and to support that family member while they're incarcerated statistically, that burden falls almost double on black families. And as we look to our sort of county's, commitment to racial equity, it just seems like, at this time when, we have such an economic situation where families are really, really struggling with property taxes, gas prices, rising costs, that we know that the people incarcerated are not the ones picking up the tab for these phone calls, right? It's their family members who are back home because they're the ones producing income. And so I just worry about the undue burden. families who earn less than $25,000 a year spend an average of $3,800 a year to support each family member, to keep in touch with them. And that's more than families that made $75,000 per year. So what you're finding is that families who are poorer are more likely to keep in contact with their incarcerated loved one. And that is a tremendous burden on them to be able to pay the rest of their bills. And so if I had a couch cushion for the county that had enough money to cover all the costs associated with administering this contract, I would pull that right now. I may still look for an amendment to try to figure out a way to eliminate the cost. But I guess if we can't do that, is there any way in your view that we could just keep the rates the way they are now, and like what would the price tag of that be?
So hi, my name is Brenda Smith. I'm the contract administrator for the CRC. And I think at this point, it'd probably be helpful if I could share a little background with you as to what has actually occurred when it comes to the phone calls. So the FCC originally took away the ability of any facility to collect any revenue when it came to phone calls. That's what happened. But then after they did that initially, they realized that some facilities were relying on that revenue to provide some of those services that supported their security operations. So they had to go back to the drawing board and look at it again. So what happened was they came back and said, okay, we were a little drastic, because what started to happen across the country was some facilities said they were just going to stop doing phone calls. And at the time, that's what some of the facilities were saying, they're just going to stop doing phone calls altogether, because there is nothing that says that they have to do it. FCC goes back to the drawing board and look at what they put out and come back and say, you know what? We didn't get it right. We needed to take a harder look at this. And what they came back and said is, now you can get some revenue, but you can only get your administrative costs. So essentially what you're seeing is they're generating, that's why the revenue numbers are changing, is because now we can only get up to 2% of our administrative costs when it comes to those phone calls, certain services. Now this is, again, still temporary. They came back and did this, but they haven't finalized what it's going to look like, because they know that they have to take a closer look at this. So we're just trying to adjust our contract, and while this is going on, we're trying to negotiate with ICS. So that's what these delays are, because they changed in the midst of our negotiations, they changed it again. We had to go back to the drawing table and come up with another way to make sure that, that the vendor stays whole, and make sure that we're in line with FCC rules. So I just want to make sure that you understand what's happening here. It's not that the CRC is trying to, or the county is trying to generate revenue from those calls. We're trying to stay in line with the FCC rulings, but also, if we can, maintain the cost of what those services look like, because we do want to continue to provide them. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly don't mean to make it seem like this is anything that the CRC or the sheriff's office is doing wrong. I don't think that they want to charge people higher rates. I'm just worried about the burden on families that are, not always the best well-off families, to keep in contact with their loved ones while they're in, probably the worst moment of their life. So we don't have a cost estimate as to what it would cost to keep the rates as they are now and just have the county eat the administrative costs instead of collecting the revenue, the additional 2 cents or 4 cents, whatever it is.
I believe we do, because when we worked with the vendor, they gave us 3 options. There was 1, 2, and 3. I don't have that information in front of me because I wasn't prepared to speak. Okay. I just wanted to make sure you had at least enough information to make informed decisions on where we're going to next. And if the CJF does have those 3 options that they put before us, because they did give us 3 options, we went with the one that will at least cover as much cost for the county as possible.
Yeah, I do see the 3 options in here, and maybe it would make sense, and we'll get to Supervisor Capriolo next, but to have someone explain the 3 options that are listed on the report.
We decide the option 3 because the option, the first one and the second one, they were charging the same amount of money to the inmates, but the revenue was not the same. The vendor will get more revenue, and we were like less revenue for that. That's why we decided to go to the number 3. They will be the same charge for them, but we were not going to get the same amount of revenue.
That's option 3. That would be, the cost would be the same to the resident, but the county would not get any of the additional revenue.
Yes, that was, we decided to go to the number 3. And I got to mention the inmate is still going to get the 90 minutes and 15 minutes on free video visitation. Some of them, they might not going to need, well, let's hoping that they don't have to stay here a long time. So they still have that 90 minutes per week. And they're free, and the 15 minutes free video visitation. I understand that we worry about the families, but also, like in the past, we were not receiving any revenue. And I think this is a good opportunity to help the county too, not as a revenue.
Okay.
But I think we're doing what is correct with the vendor and what can help our department.
So to provide option 1, what would that cost annually for the county?
One.
Or are you saying these are all the same?
No.
I'm just...
The option 2 will be $533,441 and 6 cents in revenue. That was the option 2.
Okay.
Option 1.
Well, perhaps we can have a more robust discussion in finance this week. In the interest of time, let's move to Supervisor Capriola's question. It doesn't seem like we have all the answers. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to try to clarify this in my head. So if I'm understanding correctly, the 2026 budget allotted roughly $600,000 to the CRC and $250,000 to the jail related to revenue made by these calls. If we're not getting any revenue, are there other programming things that will be cut because of that? Or was this revenue just to cover our costs with the calls and the tablets?
Chair, supervisors, that's a really good question. Thank you for that. We would have to make cuts. Obviously, this is going to add to the deficit that we already have at the sheriff's office when it comes to our bottom line. But we would potentially have to cut something from our operating budget. We're already razor thin within the jail. More than likely, it would have to come from programming. We do have a first offenders program that costs, $30,000 and is very productive. We attended a graduation recently, and the goal is, of course, to have somebody not come back into custody. It gets really the root cause of their incarceration on a per person basis, and to give them the skill set to not reoffend and not come back to jail. We have an officer that'll be assigned to what's called the IGNITE program, which is a really good program originating in Genesee County in Michigan. And it is all about, it's an educational format. It increases reading scores, math scores. It really gives people the tools that they can actually use when they get released. But that requires an officer, a standalone officer, and a standalone supervisor. We more than likely would not have the ability to staff that necessarily if we need to cut costs. So there will be an impact within the jail, certainly.
Okay. Yep. Chief Deputy Barco.
Ms. Chair, Supervisors, and we can certainly have a more robust conversation with the various options, but just for clarification, the reason that we went with option 3 is because that one most aligned with the 2026 operating budget. It actually is $75,000 less, if I'm correct in that. But that was the one that aligned most with the revenue stream that was put into the 2026 budget. We can certainly look at other options that, and I agree, not putting it on the backs of the families of those that are in our care, but I want everyone to, so that we're all clear with this, that to the assistant director's point, it is going to create a hole, thus a deficit in our budget. Thus, we may have to look at cutting something or reducing something to cover that shortfall. So I just wanted to make that clear. The option 3 was the one that aligned most with the 2026 adopted budget to cover those revenues.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we would have gaps and thus a deficit. So just for clarification.
Yeah, I guess the moral of the story here for me is I just have to ask more questions at budget time, because I guess it seemed like the budget was made on assumptions that were on things that hadn't been passed yet, and that puts us in a frustrating position as we asked to vote on this month. But it's not your fault, so thank you so much, and we don't need to act on this today. We'll act on this on Thursday, but I really appreciate all the effort to answer the questions.
Mr. Martinez has a question.
Thank you. Supervisor Martinez.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So we're going to act on this in finance. That means that today we don't have to take action on it, or we should?
No, we don't need to. It's informational only unless otherwise directed.
Oh, got it. Okay, because yeah, I feel like this is something that should be like laid over. But okay, thank you.
Okay. Again, thank you everyone for being available for questions here. And then, all right.
I have a question.
You have one more question?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Logston.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to refresh my memory. We spoke on this a lot last year when they changed over the system and everything. So, this FCC-2475 critiques what we already have in line. And you did mention they get X amount of minutes, our residents get X amount of minutes, phone calls and videos. So this is really the amount over that limit that we're discussing now, that they go over their limit. Okay, and they do have in here, one of the reasons that they enforce this new FCC 2475 is to make sure that the incarcerated persons don't get charged additional charges and special fees. So this is protecting, their rights also. So there's a lot involved in this. There's a lot to read. And budget season is going to be interesting because I think we need a little more information on this, maybe forth in front of the committee to understand it, because I read it a couple times and it's kind of confusing, but thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we have Supervisor Rowan is going to be available at 10:30 to testify on his ordinance. We have a few minutes until then. I don't want to have us just be sitting around. So why don't we have the presentation of item 6, and then if we have to take a break at some point, we can come back to it. But let's start with item 6.
Item 6, 2026 Adopted Budget Amendment 30 from the Director, Office of Strategy, Budget, and Performance, providing a response to 2026 Budget Amendment 30. This file is also considered by the Committee on Personnel. It is before your committee today for informational purposes only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Chair Belinsky, supervisors, my name is Isaac Rowlett, Strategy Director for Milwaukee County in the Office of Strategy, Performance, and Budget. I am here to present our response to Amendment 30, which directed SBP, Human Resources, the Sheriff's Office, and the Community Reintegration Center to analyze recruitment, hiring, training, and staffing practices for a correctional officer and deputy sheriff positions. And I'm going to proceed, instead of using the slides, I'm just going to share high-level findings from this report. I'm joined by colleagues both from our team. Heather Wolfgram, who was the PM on this project, did a fantastic job both conducting research and facilitating the group, and then colleagues from HR, CRC, and MCSO as well to help address any questions that there may be afterwards. So I want to be upfront first about what this report is and what it is not. So the board asked for analysis, and that's what this is. It's an honest look at how the system works, where the friction points are, and what options may be worth pursuing. As a result, these are starting points for further exploration rather than formal recommendations. So what did we find? First, we found that applicant volume is not the problem. Milwaukee County receives substantial interest. In 2025, for example, we're talking over 1,400 applicants for MCSO correctional officer positions alone. The problem is one of conversion. So fewer than 10% of applicants typically result in a hire, or 1 out of 10. And in several recent years, the number for hires has barely exceeded the number of separations, meaning that we're running hard just to hold our position with minimal net staffing growth. Second, attrition happens throughout the pipeline, not just at the front door. So candidates exit at multiple points. There's qualification gaps, non-responsiveness, background screening, and early career turnover, all of which play a role. 12-month retention rates for correctional officers hover around 72 to 74%, which means that we're losing roughly 1 in 4 within the first year. Deputy sheriffs retain much better at 91%, but it's worth remembering that their hiring pipeline is significantly longer. So background investigations alone can take about 5 to 6 months before a recruit even starts at academy training. Third, training capacity is a binding constraint on this overall process. So correctional officers must complete jailer certification about 5 weeks within their first year. And deputy sheriffs must complete roughly a 1,000-hour academy before they're fully operational. Once again, that's 1,000-hour academy before they're fully operational. And that pipeline runs 5 to 6 months. So when training classes are constrained by instructor availability, facility capacity, onboarding delays, extend vacancies, and those vacancies can drive the overtime that we're all seeking to reduce. Fourth, and this matters a lot for how we think about solutions, a significant portion of these requirements are set by state law and the Wisconsin Law Enforcement Standards Board. And this is a key point. It came up a number of times in the discussions that we had across departments and offices about how to address some of these challenges. Some of these background check standards, certification requirements, drug testing, felony prohibitions, the county does not have unilateral authority to streamline those. So any changes in those areas would require action at the state level. Now, what the county can influence are things like how we front load applicant expectations so that people self-select before they enter into the pipeline. This was a common theme of people misaligned expectations between those that are on the front end of the process from when they're later along the way. Another one is how we align recruitment cycles with training schedules to reduce the gaps between waves of new hires, how we evaluate background investigation capacity to determine whether additional staffing there would speed throughput, whether we explore strategies like controlled overhiring, so intentionally hiring above authorized FTE levels to account for some of that attrition. And it's worth noting that that would require board-level policy action to pursue. We also looked at the Milwaukee Police Department's recruiting model for the sake of comparison. So MPD invests more heavily in their structured pipeline development. They have a police aid program that cultivates candidates before they enter the formal hiring process, continuous recruitment rather than periodic application windows, and lateral recruitment incentives. These aren't directly transferable, but they illustrate the difference between a more reactive recruiting model and a more proactive pipeline development process. So the bottom line is this. The staffing challenges at the Sheriff's Office and the Community Reintegration Center are real, they're structural, and they will not be resolved by a single intervention. Recruiting, training, and retention function as a system. And improving one piece without the others won't move the needle in a sustained way. The report lays out the terrain very clearly. The next step is for departments to work through which operational changes are actionable now, which ones will require resource and policy decisions, including decisions that will likely come back before you all on the board. As I said, I'm joined today by colleagues from HR, MCSO, and CRC, and we're happy to address any and all questions that the committee may have.
I believe our first question is from Supervisor Capriolo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. In the comparison with the city of Milwaukee, do they have a full-time recruiter, or and is that something that we're considering looking at the county? Would that help?
Mr. Chair, Supervisors, great question. I'm not aware, I don't know if they have a full-time recruiter. I do know, though, that they work with an outside entity, and they definitely have a larger budget, both in the area of marketing to market the jobs. But it is something that we have looked at and explored about getting a full-time recruiter to assist with this. Since the beginning of this year, we have developed a recruitment team. We have been fairly successful with that. However, I caution everyone, because those are positions that, are doing other things. So trying to balance that and while also keeping an eye on overtime can sometimes be challenging. But we have definitely ramped up our recruiting efforts since the beginning of this year. And for the first time in a while, the last 2 months, last month and this and next month, we're actually seeing double-digit numbers of recruits coming into the correctional officer job. And we are very optimistic that we will continue that trend with the efforts that we've made. But certainly a full-time recruiter would be beneficial.
I did notice as well that the police, Milwaukee police, run commercials highlighting the benefits of being a police officer. Obviously, that takes budget, which I know we all struggle with. But thank you for answering the question.
How does this study differ from the outcome of the consultant study that we did last year, with the International Association of Chiefs of Police, or whatever it was that we were interviewed for on this committee, and any different recommendations from the two reports?
Chair, Supervisors, Isaac Rowlett, Strategy Director, SBP. My understanding of what we used that report for was to help to inform these findings. So I think my understanding was, and I would, if any of my colleagues have a different understanding, then please don't hesitate to weigh in as well. But my recollection is that what we did was we took the findings that we had from that report and used them to help inform the discussions that we were having across departments. I will say we learned probably as much just from the discussions and the research that we conducted as we did from that report. But I don't think that there were areas of significant divergence between those two.
Mr. Chair, Supervisors, I would agree with that assessment. And not just the Sheriff's Office and the CRC, but I think I've mentioned this before, every industry, whether it's healthcare, retail, struggle with finding, people to fill these jobs. And I don't think corrections and law enforcement is any different in that area. Obviously, the process is much longer. The background, and as the director had mentioned, many of these are driven by state statute and LESB standards. So while there's not a whole lot of wiggle room there are things that we can do as a county across departments to try to streamline the gap between once we get a group of qualified candidates and get them onboarded through the orientation process that with the county, and that involves, our partners with human resources and all of that. There's a number of steps that then they have to do, medical screening, drug tests, things of that nature. So it might be useful to try to figure out if it's possible to kind of close some of those gaps and focus on the things that as a county we can work on, rather than looking to try to change state law or state statute.
Okay, well, sounds like maybe next time we should not be hiring consultants and just have our very capable county staff doing these evaluations, because it sounds like we could have got the same results for $300,000 less. All right, well, I thank you for this. Do we have any other committee questions on this, this report? Okay, thank you so much. All right, at this time, if we could move back on the agenda to item 2, I believe we do have Supervisor Rowland to speak to his ordinance.
Item 2, a resolution/ordinance to amend Section 1.21 of the Milwaukee County Code of General Ordinances to require standing committee review of reappointments. This resolution is sponsored by Supervisors Rowland and Wasserman.
Supervisor Rowland, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee. Hello. So what this ordinance would do is it would ask that our committees also hear reappointments to any of the boards and commissions that the county board and the county executive appoint. The current process is our committees hear from folks when they are just about to join a committee, right? The county executive appoints somebody, then our county board committees decide if that person is a good fit or not. If we decide yes, then we approve, and then they go off and do their work. But what so often happens is that we don't hear from them again, right? We on the county board don't hear from them in committees. I just think it's a missed opportunity for us to hear about their experiences, and for people seeking reappointment to understand why they're still interested in a position, what they're interested in bringing to the table again, just for accountability's sake, right? To ensure that we're not just reappointing people, the same people over and over, that we're doing the evaluation and we are making sure that they're still the right fit, that they still are bringing ideas to the table and not just taking up a chair that could be taken up by somebody else with potentially new ideas and new passion for a particular thing. So what this would do is it would ask all of the appointments and reappointments to come to our committee, to have a conversation with our board committees. Yes, it would add to our agendas, but yes, I think it would also add to our understanding of what happens in these commissions, in these rooms that we don't often get to hear, right? We send them off, and then we don't ever hear what happened until maybe it shows up in a budget, and we still loosely understand that process. If they came back to us for reappointment, we would be able to say, what'd you work on? What are you passionate about? Why do you like continuing to work on this? What's that like? What did you learn? What's the process like? I just think it would open a window to all sorts of things that we have no other way to experience. So happy to take the questions or thoughts, but that's the method behind this one.
Thank you, Supervisor Rowland. I did see a hand up, but yes, Supervisor Capriolo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I definitely support this resolution, and I always find it disappointing when we do have, the county executive is recommending someone and that person doesn't show up. I'm sure they did their due diligence, but if we're being asked to affirm, it would be really nice to actually meet that person and be able to ask questions. So I would move approval. I believe it's an action item for us.
That is correct. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like the 5 of us on this committee have to get reappointed every couple of years, by different means. So I think it makes sense. Do we have any other discussion from committee members on the ordinance? Okay, Mr. Coordinator, then call the roll on Supervisor Capriolo's motion, if you would.
On the motion by Supervisor Capriolo that item number 2 be recommended for adoption, Supervisors Logston,
Aye.
Johnson Jr.,
Aye.
Martinez,
Aye.
Capriolo,
Aye.
Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 noes, the motion prevails.
Thank you. Thanks for the flexibility.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Okay. Sorry, jumping around the agenda here, so I think we are now back to item 7. Please read item 7.
Item 7, report from the Director and Chief Information Officer, Department of Administrative Services, Information Management Services Division, DOS IMSD, providing an informational report on the development of a comprehensive policy framework for facial recognition technology that does not suppress First Amendment-related activities, violate privacy, or otherwise adversely impact individuals' civil rights and liberties for Milwaukee County. This item is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
Go ahead, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Matt Johnson, Department of Administrative Services, IMSD. I'm the Deputy CIO. This report, I will try not to read verbatim. There are a couple of things I do want to point out specifically, so do appreciate your patience. This is a follow-up to the presentation, the joint presentation from the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office and IMSD back in the December cycle. And this is in response to Resolution 25-427 from last summer, the June 2025 cycle. At that December presentation, we talked at the time there was a consideration for a vendor, Biometrica, to provide facial recognition technology solution around booking images captured as someone goes through the booking process. The Sheriff's Office has since withdrawn that consideration, so at this time there are no proposed facial recognition technology items in front of IMSD that we're aware of. I did try to, we spent a lot of time, because this is a very complicated topic, we spent a lot of time talking through in the December presentation some of the technology. I did try to distill some of that down and make it a little more visual for you in the matrix that is there in the report. And in essence, really think about it as, because much of our discussion got into not just facial recognition, but a lot of around just image recognition in general, not just facial recognition. Items that are, or types of technologies that are there in green in that matrix are things that are currently deployed. The previously mentioned Biometrica solution around facial recognition around a static image, that was the item in yellow there. Again, that's no longer being considered. There are other options within the facial recognition realm of technologies, more in terms of full video, real-time type capabilities. Those are there in gray. We do not have any of those capabilities, and we're, again, not looking at, or departments are not asking IMSD to put those forward. I do want to highlight, though, a couple of things as a part of this. So one of the challenges here from a technology perspective is this is really more of a policy implication of these. As we talked about in the December cycle, IMSD's focus is really on the operationalization of a technology. How do we secure it? How do we purchase it? Is this cost effective? How do we train users on those types of things? The policy implications of that are really not something that we typically address. The second point that I just want to reemphasize, and we talked about this in many of the constituent comments that were given after the presentation, is really this second paragraph on the top of page 3 here. The county may choose not to use or may choose to limit its use of facial recognition technology. But if a third-party entity obtains any underlying images or video, that third party may have the ability to use FRT on that obtained data. And again, we discussed this, but any policies and procedures around facial recognition, we have to underlie just any type of data, right? If we collect financial data and somebody makes a records request, that means somebody could take that data and analyze it. It's really no different in that regard. Obviously, there are privacy implications of the results of a facial recognition. So just understand that as we go through kind of some of these options and we talk about where from a policy perspective is the board looking at and what are your concerns. I think the other challenge here before I get into the options is this gets into cross-departmental and by even just departmental cross-elected official and constitutional authorities. What is IMSD within the county executive's purview able to dictate versus what is sheriff or any other elected officials' purview in certain areas. And so that's kind of one of the challenges when we try to create a cross-county governance type thing. And as we discussed in December, most of our research on this in other municipalities and counties where they have addressed this, it typically comes at the budget or purchasing type layer where there's some sort of authority that has to be, or authorization has to be obtained. So really looking here, our recommendation right now is option one, and this is within our purview within IMSD. We would be able to assist in creating something within the county executive's area. Other departmental leaders and other elected officials may choose to engage with that, but as we go through this and I'm not going to read all these bullet points to you, but these are all the bullet points of concern in the resolution about ensuring protection of civil liberties, authorized or prohibited uses, bias mitigation, data management and sharing. I know sharing was one of our topics from December, and legal and regulatory compliance. When we start to get down to option two, again, this is today's world is, and we all know the budget challenges here at the county. A lot of times departments, as they have budget and they're looking to fill gaps in terms of camera coverage for safety, they will come to IMSD and be able to fund those. And so we do end up with kind of a patchwork type oversight there. So that is a little bit of what we're looking at. But there could be legislative action around banning FRT from a countywide perspective or going through the AMOP, possibly the AMOP process. Again, the mechanisms, we'd have to evaluate what that would have to be in order to say that we're actually banning the use of that or some other limitation there. Option three, and this is the really more extreme option, and we've marked it here, is really not feasible, and this gets to my comments above that when we talk about even if I have security cameras or I have the cameras in this room, somebody could take this video and run that through some sort of facial recognition on their own. If we were like, well, that's too much of a risk for us, then we would be talking about basically eliminating camera technology throughout the county. That would be a very extreme step and not something that would be easily achieved. So that's why we've marked that as not feasible. So I will pause there and be happy to take the committee's questions.
Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman Belinsky. I don't have any questions, but I just want to make a statement. Having read some articles as it relates to facial recognition technology, you've offered us a matrix here, and in the dark green parts of the matrix, we already have these items already been deployed. The item in yellow is something that I am definitely against, because from what I've read as relates to facial recognition technology, minorities and African Americans in particular have been captured on camera and have been mistakenly identified in lots of venues, lots of places over time. And so I just wanted to make that statement that I personally am definitely against that. The Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office has indicated as a policy it is against that, and I am adhere to their policy. I mean, I would be in favor of their continued policy to be against facial recognition technology. Again, I just want to put that on the record. Just want to say it again, because I've seen enough of it to understand, to know that African Americans particularly have a lot going against them in this atmosphere that we have with the federal government in charge, our federal government with President Trump being the head of the federal government, and the intentions and the policies that he has been about. And I would think that he would do whatever he could, even though he sometimes says that African Americans are his people, et cetera, et cetera. He definitely doesn't act as if African Americans are his people. So I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Logson.
Thank you, Chairman. It's like Big Brother watching, okay, with the cameras. That's how a lot of people do feel about this. What I need to know, have we actually utilized these cameras in the apprehension of anybody? Has it helped solve crimes in Milwaukee County?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the question. Supervisor, I would defer that question to the Sheriff's Office. I will say that in the December presentation, again, we talked about the use of the license plate recognition cameras and those investigative results. So,
Morning, Mr. Chair, Supervisors, Brian Barco, Chief Deputy, Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office. Regarding your question, just so I'm understanding it, when you're talking about cameras, can you specifically what cameras are you referring to?
Well, the block cameras, facial recognition.
Yes, there have been successful arrests. I believe I've talked about this at prior committee hearings. There was a serial rapist that was attacking women in the Washington Park area. That technology aided in the apprehension of that individual. Multiple homicides, non-fatal shootings have been solved with that. But in addition to crime, missing persons have been located, critical missing, runaway juveniles, young people have been found, located through the technology. Incidents related to Amber Alerts, green alerts, silver alerts, things of that nature. So, and in general, while I understand, and I've said this before, the concern about video surveillance, cameras do not only solve crime, but they also protect us, and when I say us, I mean the county, okay, from allegations. Take the jail. Imagine, okay, the jail without cameras. I mean, I don't want to. They protect the county. Obviously, any and all technology, okay, has to be used responsibly. I've said this in the past. Social media is the biggest one. That there needs to be, social media needs to be used in a responsible manner as well. So, yes, we have solved crime. We have located missing persons, runaways, but it also protects the county, okay, from potential civil liability and litigation based on claims and false claims that have been made.
Mr. Chair, if I may also, I just want to clarify as well from, Supervisor, you mentioned flock cameras. Those are not facial recognition cameras. So I just want to be clear, from the request on the resolution was about addressing the use of facial recognition. So I get, again, that's why I kind of tried to do the matrix, like where that line is often gray and it's muddled sometimes in the media. And yes, there are privacy concerns, as you mentioned, the Big Brother view of that, but then there is kind of what the Chief Deputy laid out in terms of the investigative purposes. So again, IMSD's position is this was a request, for us to be able to deploy and support those from a network standpoint and data standpoint. But again, there could be a decision from a policy perspective as to where we want to draw that line in that matrix.
I look at, when I look at something like this, I see your information report. I look at, thank you. When I look at this, I look for the results of using this system. Is it a benefit to Milwaukee County? Is this something we want to continue? And I'm always looking for more data to back it up. Is this something we need to, continue, or is it not? So it's an ongoing thing right now. How many years have we been doing this?
I guess, could you clarify, Supervisor, your question? Years for what type of?
The facial, the item in number 7.
Yeah,
the comprehensive policy framework.
So to be clear, so up until the biometrica proposal, the county had not even considered any facial recognition technology, and there are no items being considered at this time. So I think when that was put forward, the resolution that was passed last summer was asking IMSD to provide a report on that, and how do we provide a structure with an update at the December cycle. So we provided that update in December, and when we look at this, it's how do we provide, even if there's not anything being proposed right now, what if in 5 years, 10 years, do we need to have a governance framework? But I think that comes with what is the policy framework that the board is interested in and other elected officials as to where are we going to draw these lines? And are we going to say, well, we're just going to provide oversight and a request and approval mechanism, or are we going to, flat out ban or restrict the use of a technology? And again, when we look at what is deployed, there's concerns that were expressed at the December cycle, and you yourself were expressing some of them here about, license plate cameras, the flock cameras, and the potential for misuse and those types of things. What is the governance oversight? Is it we're not going to use them, or it's we're going to use them, but we'll require this type of reporting and this type of usage, et cetera? I think that's, but when we get into those questions, then we start running into the issues around constitutional authorities. So the request for the resolution was for IMSD. Again, IMSD is not really in a position to dictate policy like that to the sheriff's office. So how do we draw that? We can talk about what we can do to support and not support that technology.
Again, this is an item we have to see what the strengths and the weaknesses are of the program and the benefits. Thank you.
Yes, Chief Deputy Barco.
Mr. Chair, Supervisors, I just want to make a clarification. So the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office is not using any kind of FRT, nor are we interested in using FRT. I just want to make that clarification. Yes, the whole biometrica thing, yes, that was last year, but here currently in present day, we have no desire to utilize FRT. And I just want to make that very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. My sort of concern in this is mostly related to the flock camera system. We've seen Dane County ban the use of flock cameras that they had previously been using. We've seen Verona decided not to use flock cameras anymore because they found out that law enforcement agencies elsewhere in the country had accessed their camera footage to do immigration enforcement. Then Verona went back and forth, and the company refused to stop the operation of the cameras, and they eventually had to put plastic bags over them to prevent the cameras from being used. I think Appleton just became the latest community in Wisconsin to ban the use of flock cameras, and so, if we're up to me right now, I would put forward an ordinance change, and we would say flock cameras are no longer allowed in Milwaukee County. After consulting with Corporation Counsel, I don't believe that's something we can do as it applies to the Sheriff's Department, but there are certainly concerns with who has access to the information and then how that information is used, particularly as Supervisor Johnson mentioned, in this current federal environment we live in, where, if you want to immigrate to this country, you now need to make all your social media profiles set to public, or the federal government will deny your application. We're an unprecedented era of federal government trying to use whatever data they can to, one, attack political enemies and to support their friends. And so I guess from a data privacy perspective, what is it that the county board can do to make sure that whatever data is collected by flock cameras stays within Milwaukee County, or at least stays within law enforcement agencies that do not actively cooperate with ICE?
Mr. Chair, supervisors, so I believe I've said this before in previous. We do not share any data, okay, with any federal entity. Our flock account is not set up with federal or state national lookup. We do share with local jurisdictions here within the state. We don't even share outside of the state. And as Matt had mentioned, my background, is data and analytics. My degree is in computer engineering. So trust me when I say I definitely know what I'm talking about. And we do take a number of safeguards and measures, to protect all of our data, not just the data that is in Flock, but the data that is in our CAD system, the data that is in our CMS system, our record management system, and the video, that we use here and that the county uses. So we do have a lot of strong safeguards and measures in place, to protect that data. I guess for one clarification regarding, you had mentioned Appleton and some of these other entities. I did read things online. I did watch the hearings, I believe, with Oshkosh. I'm not going to say what that was or what it wasn't. I do think that there was some misunderstanding in those meetings, or people misunderstood things. But the bottom line is that the data is secure. If we're not sharing the data with someone, it's not like they can magically obtain the data. And now this would require a conversation, with the sheriff. But the other option would be is that we don't share the data, period. We do have a very robust audit system. I can safely say that the audit that was recently conducted did not find any improprieties of Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office employees using the system in a way that it was not intended. And we have taken other safeguards and measures to ensure that, for example, you can't use free text to describe the reason or the nature for why you're conducting a search on the plate. And just to put things into perspective from a data perspective, because I'm an analytics guy. Last month, for example, the number of searches that were done, and it was 173 searches, that were conducted. Many of these involved vehicles that were wanted in connection to hit and runs, fleeing, eluding, other violent or crime related to theft, robbery, assault. But of those 173 searches, there were about 40 of them that did not obtain, that there was not a plate. It was just a vehicle description, so it wasn't even a license plate search. And when you compare that to the number of images that are in that system for that 30-day period, and there again, I know that that might be concerning to some people. There again, now it would require, obviously I'm not going to speak for the sheriff, But that 30-day retention period, that can be adjusted too. We could decide we're only going to retain images for 7 days. And we could do that. But of those searches that were conducted versus the number of reads that were in the system, it equated to 0.02% of a percent. So literally 0.02% of the searches that were conducted. So
what was that percentage referring to?
it was referring to the number of searches versus the like the search that was done against the number of plate vehicle descriptions or license plates that were in the system. So yes, I understand that there's a concern, okay, of these images being captured, but the point that I'm trying to make here is that the vast majority, right, 99.8%, okay, of these images are not even being searched. You know, like they're you know what I'm saying? Like the plate is not being of the images of the description of the vehicle or the plate number that's being searched. Right. It's a very, very small percentage.
It's a big net.
Yeah, it's a huge net. Yeah. Is the point that I'm trying to make.
And so when another department comes in with a plate request, they say, hey, I want you to run this plate. Do they have to have a warrant or a probable cause or something that says why they're asking for that plate? Or can Waukesha, which has an agreement with ICE, could they just be like, can you run this plate for me and tell me if they've been in your county for the last 30 days?
No. Well, they don't need a warrant. However, that type of request requires a supervisor to approve that. That was a policy change that we done, I want to say maybe 8 months ago, maybe. So we have taken steps, okay, to try to close those gaps, those loopholes. Give some reassurances that we are, trying to do things in a responsible and respective way, that understanding the concerns from a national perspective, if you will, but in order, conducting a search like that, like I said, it requires a supervisor to sign off and approve that. And then it also requires that a report be written, and those requests are reviewed, and the supervisors, based on what the circumstances are, they have to provide, a case number or a report number. It's not just something that we, take at face value.
That's helpful. And yes, I also want to, since you had mentioned it, I did want to reiterate that yes, the stories that people might have heard in the news about individual officers misusing Flock to stalk their ex-girlfriends and whatnot was not with the Milwaukee Sheriff's Department. So, okay, any other questions from committee before we move on? I think this is really helpful. I think that matrix is especially helpful, and probably has some follow-up resolutions in the months to come. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Courtney, I believe we're down to the last 4 items here in the agenda. The next 3 are all items that have been noticed for closed session. Is there anything that we need to read before we start, or do we wait until such time as we would go into closed session?
Mr. Chairman, if it's the committee's or corporation council's desire to adjourn into closed session for all 3 items, then I would need to read them all in together so that the committee could discuss all of them in the closed session before reconvening in open session. But if it is not the intent of anyone to go into closed session on any particular item, we could take that item up separately.
Okay, well, why don't we start by reading in item 9, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Item 9, from the Superintendent, Community Reintegration Center, providing an informational report regarding public safety-related matters responsive to or within the 2026 adopted budget. This item is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
Good morning. Still morning, yes.
Good morning, Chair and Supervisors. I am Shayla Fitzroy, Assistant Superintendent of the CRC, and beside me is Security Director Lance Tardif. If it is okay, I would like to provide you with security updates beyond what was included in the memo that Superintendent Jewell sent out, and then open it up for any questions. And I apologize, my voice is kind of gone.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So just to give a brief overview of what was in the memo, while doing camera reviews, something that is required daily on all shifts, one of our captains observed what she characterized as suspicious behavior by some residents in one of our dormitories. She subsequently directed staff to go into the dorm to complete a search, also known as a shakedown, during which contraband was located and residents were removed to restricted housing. Supervisory staff then received additional information indicating that a few staff members may have brought contraband into the facility and that the contraband was being distributed to other residents, particularly in our visitation area. Because of the seriousness of the allegations, we took immediate action. As a result, we have placed 4 staff members on paid suspension while this matter is being investigated. At this time, we do not know what level of involvement, if any at all, these staff members may have had. This matter is currently under investigation by law enforcement. In addition to suspending those staff members, we conducted a facility-wide search using narcotic detecting canines. Because of the size and complexity of our facility, the process required time and coordination. Director Tardif organized these efforts over several days and across multiple shifts. To ensure ongoing safety and security during this process, the facility was placed on lockdown. That included restricting resident movement, suspending family visitation, and limiting personal phone calls. These steps were essential to protect the integrity of the shakedown, as maintaining an element of surprise was critical. We did not want the residents to have the ability to communicate with each other, discard contraband, or transfer contraband while moving through shared spaces within the facility, such as visiting. The facility-wide shakedowns have now been completed, and we have resumed normal operations with enhanced security measures in place. These measures include increasing the number of unannounced searches throughout our facility, expanding the frequency of canine inspections, and reducing the amount of time that our staff members spends in a single assignment. Currently, our rotations are 60 days. A body scanner has been ordered, and it was ordered prior to this incident, which is expected to arrive within the next couple weeks. I'd also like to add that security is one of our core values, and we take it extremely seriously. Our intent is to send a clear message that certain behaviors will not be tolerated within our facility. Our number one goal is the safety of both our residents and our staff members. As Superintendent Jewell often reminds us, everyone who leaves our facility should be better than when they came. With that being said, another one of our core values is humanity. Family connection is very important to Superintendent Jewell. And as a reminder, she is the person who reopened family visiting at the CRC after it was closed for more than a decade. I share this because the recent restrictions on privileges were thoughtful and strategic decisions necessary to maintain the safety and security of our facility. We also want to acknowledge that the vast majority of our employees are people with integrity who uphold our core values every single day. And if I could also add that the CRC voluntarily pursued ACA accreditation. The American Correctional Association's accreditation is recognized as the gold standard for correctional facilities. This past March, 2 industry experts conducted a comprehensive review of our entire operation from top to bottom. They evaluated 45 mandatory standards and 93 non-mandatory, in which our facility received 100% compliance on all of them. When we receive our final accreditation in late July, we will be the only county-run correctional facility in the state to earn this accreditation. It was an enormous undertaking. It was inspiring to see all of our staff come together and achieve this. And if I could add one final quote from that final report, it said, overall, the audit team found the facility to be operating at a high level of professionalism and is in alignment with best practices in correctional management. I will now open it to any questions that you may have.
Thank you. You mentioned a body scanner. Is that an item that has been or will be before the board for approval, or is that something included in the budget already? Remember last year at the jail, we had a big body scanner item that came up, so that's why I was asking.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, is it okay if our public safety fiscal administrator is on the call? She may be able to offer some insight into that.
Sure. Take it away.
Ms. Karen.
Good morning, Chairman and committee members. Karen Cassinson, Public Safety Fiscal Administrator for the CRC. I am not aware if this was brought before the committee prior to today. The body scanner is in place of a mail scanner that was foregone prior to the decision to purchase the body scanner. So we have received some clarification from our budget office as to purchasing this body scanner as well.
And is this body scanner going to be something that staff go through on their way in for a shift, or is this something that residents go through periodically? What does the deployment look like?
I will defer that to Sergeant Security Director Tardif.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and chairs. This is basically in place for, it would be in our booking area, because we receive bookings from, the state of Wisconsin, other municipalities, and, from intakes downtown. So this would try to prevent the possibility of opioids being introduced into our facility and any kind of contraband or weapons. So it would mainly be in place as an intake preventative measure, sir.
So it would not have prevented this incident from happening, since this incident involves staff?
So, may I answer that?
Sure.
So, as stated, at this point, it is undetermined if staff members were involved. To give some perspective, typically when contraband enters a facility, it's usually by one of several different ways. One could be through the mail. Another could be with residents being improperly searched upon entry into the facility. Or the third would be staff members and or professional visitors that come into the facility. So because it is unknown at this point how that contraband entered the facility, it may have prevented it, because it is unknown if maybe the resident had the contraband on them upon entry into the facility. And that's why we have the body scanner order.
And so once a final determination is made as to the status of, how we think this happened and whether there's any, staff discipline or not, are we going to receive a follow-up report then to committee that would just say, essentially what the result was?
Absolutely. It is currently being investigated by law enforcement.
Which agency is investigating?
That would be the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, sir.
Okay. Is that typical for issues at the CRC, or would it normally be the Franklin PD?
No, it would be the sheriff's office.
Okay. Supervisor Capriola had a question.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Kind of to follow up on yours, if it does turn out that this was a staff-involved incident, what are you guys thinking about? How are you going to try to prevent something like that in the future? Are there any protocols in place now where there are periodic searches of staff members that enter, or would they periodically have to go through the body scanner in the future?
So currently, our security staff are not searched when they come into work, not our Milwaukee County employees. Just like currently, I don't believe any Milwaukee County employees are searched. Our vendors and our contractors and visitors who enter through the front lobby, they are searched. As stated, and I'll let Director Tardif go into this a little more, at this point, our intention is not to have a body scanner for employees to walk through. The only way an X-ray machine would not catch drugs. So the only way to prevent this would either be to have our staff, would be to purchase another body scanner and have our staff walk through it, or to have our canines sniffing our employees upon entry. And so it is unknown whether that would be a route that we would take at this point.
Sure. And I think that something like that could be even like on a random basis, I would think, where it's like maybe.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because I think the radiation level isn't safe for someone to go through it every day. We went through this with the research on the scanner at the jail, but perhaps there would be some incentive to not be trying to sneak something in if you just never know when you show up, if you have to go through a scanner or go through the dog sniffing you. I was just curious if there's any thought on that going forward.
We have Corporation Counsel Scott Brown with the comment.
Good morning, Chairman, Supervisors. Corporation Counsel Scott Brown. I just want to advise that before we get far down the road of security measures in the future, that should probably be discussed in closed session.
Okay. So I do want to say I'm very happy to hear that the visitation privileges and such had been lifted. There's always that fine line between taking emergency measures and when do those emergency measures become collective punishment, right? And in this case, it seemed like everything was done to make sure that wasn't the case and that people were able to resume normal business as soon as possible. And I just want to say how much I appreciate that, because as we know, there isn't in-person visitation at all in the jail or some other facilities. And so being able to resume that in a timely fashion is very good, because we know those family connections are crucial. Particularly, people here on relatively short sentences. People are going to return to the community relatively soon. You want to keep those connections going. So I think, I've been pretty forthcoming in your answers, and I appreciate us, being abreast of this. Didn't want to just have private conversations. I thought it made sense to have this before the committee that has oversight here. And thank you for the latitude in presenting this report to us. I don't see any other questions. I don't think we need to go into closed session on this item, but if you have anything else to add before we move on to item 10?
No, nothing else unless you have some additional questions.
Okay, yeah, just to keep us posted.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and then, Mr. Coordinator, if it would please Corporation Counsel, I would like to hear items 10 and 11 together, as we typically do in this committee.
Item 10, from Corporation Counsel, Office of Corporation Counsel, providing an informational report regarding the status of pending litigation. This file is also considered by the Committee on Finance and is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee. And item 11, from Corporation Counsel, Office of Corporation Counsel, providing an informational report regarding claim and litigation settlement payments. This file is also considered by the Committee on Finance and is informational only unless otherwise directed by the committee.
Good afternoon, Melinda Lawrence, Deputy Corporation Counsel, here before you to present files 2630 and 2631. There's not a lot to report. I think last time we were here, we discussed that the Christensen matter has been held over. We're doing briefing. The next hearing is June 29th. The only other thing I would highlight for you in this particular report is item number 23 is going up for oral argument before the Seventh Circuit, which provides a rare opportunity for public consumption of our work. The Seventh Circuit does publish oral argument on their YouTube page, so if the board were interested in seeing us live and in action, that would be an opportunity to.
Which item was that?
That is item 32, the estate of Yazin Cooper, case 25 CV 530. It's currently up on appeal before the Seventh Circuit, and the oral argument, it will be on June 2nd.
That was in the first report or the second report?
That is in report 2630.
30, okay.
Aside from that, I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
Supervisor Logston.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. I just have one question. I don't know, we're going to have to go into closed session for this. Item number 73, I would like to know if that has anything to do with what we've been reading about the FBI coming and speaking to people within the Milwaukee County. Is this all one and the same? We hear rumors. I'm just curious what's happening.
Certainly. Thank you for the question, Supervisor Logston. They are unrelated matters. They're related only to the extent that because of the Bergner matter, we have the ballots in our possession still. They're normally destroyed much sooner, but they're subject to a litigation hold, which means that they are subject to potential action.
Thank you for that clarification. And is there anything you can share with the Judiciary Committee that isn't in the news that we need to know about this ongoing investigation that is happening, that we're hearing about in the news? The ongoing FBI investigation, I'll be specific.
Thank you again for the question, Supervisor Logston. That's a fairly open-ended question. I think that we have been pretty transparent. A lot of it, what's in the news is what is concretely known. That's about all I can say.
Thank you. And you would let our chair know if there's anything as a Judiciary Committee that we need to be made aware of?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Okay. I don't have any further questions on any of these pending matters. Obviously, we look forward to June and to see what the outcome is there. So, informational only. I think, appreciate your testimony. I think we can move to item 12.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 12, e-comments submitted to the Committee on Judiciary, Law Enforcement, and General Services via the County Legislative Information Center click.
And Ms. Vice Chair, do we have any e-comments that you're aware of at this time?
As of the beginning of the meeting, there were none. If there's any that came in through the meeting, I'm sure our coordinator will add them to the agenda, to the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. And then just confirming, I think everyone's left the room. Does that mean that we have dispensed with our agenda? I just want to make sure I didn't miss any items since we did skip around a little bit.
Mr. Chairman, per my records, that is everything on the agenda.
Perfect. All right. Well, then we stand adjourned till next month.